Hey guys, welcome back to WeRC. Today we're working on our Traxxas Slash Ultimate. It needs a new motor mount. We'll show you why it needs to be replaced, maybe some indications that yours may need replaced, the parts you need to do it, and how to do it. So let's get to it. Here we have our Traxxas Slash Ultimate, and the indicator that we need to replace that motor mount is if you take your center drive shaft, you can actually, you see how much play there is in this. Now it could be that the bearing is out, but we'll take a look at it. Oftentimes what happens is that bearing gets hot, it melts the motor mount, and we'll show you that, and there's just too much play where the bearing meets the motor mount. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the motor cover off. Then we're going to take the 4 screws out to take the rear end off. There's 2 in the top. And 2 in the bottom. And once those 4 are out, we'll just simply pull the rear end off. Now we'll pull out our slipper clutch and spur gear. And right here is the culprit. So we've got the bearing, and right there in the motor mount you can see how much play there is on that bearing. And that motor mount hole has just gotten heated up and expanded bigger than it's supposed to be. In fact, you can see where some of the plastic has actually melted. So with the Ultimate, we have the temperature sensor on the motor and the speed sensor that's built into the motor mount. We're going to go ahead and loosen this strap here that holds the motor wires and the leads to those 2 telemetry sensors. That way we've got a little bit of play in the wires. Then we have 2 screws on the motor mount to remove. And now the motor mount should lift up, motor and all. So next we're going to take out the speed sensor. We're going to take out this little screw, and you will have to take the wire out of your receiver because the sensor has to feed through this direction. Set that aside. Next we'll unbolt the motor from the motor mount. And you may have some debris in this bottom screw because it's hard to clean without taking the motor mount loose. Alright, so there we have it. This is the bad one. We'll be back with the new one. Here's the new motor mount. That's Traxxas 7460A. The motor mount also comes with a new nut that you have to feed into this slot in the top of it. We can get to zoom there. That nut goes down in like this, and that's for your top motor bolt. And we also, before we do that, we will take, it comes with a plate. If you don't have the speed telemetry, we're going to take that plate out. We'll reuse this screw. We'll take the little plate out. And it does come with a new bottom motor screw. In fact, we should be able to leave that in. Put our top screw into that new nut. It's a nylock nut. We'll leave that loose because we do still have to adjust that to mesh with our spur gear. And then we're going to feed our speed sensor back in. And we'll use our new screw to hold that in place. All right, while we have this apart, we're gonna go ahead and clean this up just a little bit, remove some of this dirt that's down in there, and we'll be right back. All right, so we've got it cleaned up. We're gonna go ahead and install the new motor mount back onto the chassis. Should fit nicely down in there. If you're using a power drill like I am, be sure you don't tighten them all the way. Just get it the majority, finish it by hand. All right, we can go ahead and put our top motor mount screws in as well. And if you'll recall, we left the motor loose, and we'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and tighten these by hand. All right, then I was saying we left the motor loose, so go ahead and rotate it up as far as you can out of the way, and that'll allow room to put our slipper clutch assembly back in. Now, while we have this apart, there are two things that we want to replace. This is the bearing adapter. It comes with the new center bearing and an adapter for the slipper clutch assembly. We're going to replace that in just a moment, as well as the spur gear. And we have the part numbers for those: the bearing adapter 6893X, the spur gear 3956. We have another video showing you how to replace that spur gear, so we won't show that here, but we will show you about the bearing adapter. So we're going to back this nut out. This is a 5/16 nut. We're going to back it all the way out. That's going to give us enough play to compress the spring and remove the pin right here. Once that pin is out, we can pull the slipper clutch assembly off and the spur gear off. And then there you'll see is the adapter that we're replacing. Here's the new part. So that's the new adapter. You see what the old one looks like. So you can see it was rubbing on that bearing. When it got play in it, it really started to wear out the adapter. And then the bearing, of course, is the new bearing that goes right here in the back of the new motor mount. Go ahead and install that. And you see that is a much tighter fit. There is zero play on that compared to the old motor mount. And then that's where that adapter fits right in there. So it's a very nice, tight connection. So we'll go ahead and get the adapter replaced. We'll pull this old one off. We'll put the new one on. We'll change out the spur gear and we'll be right back. Spur gear assembly all back together. You see our new adapter there. Here's a free tip for you. Most of the time there's play in this center drive shaft where it engages here. We put a number 78 O-ring. It may require two, but number 78 O-ring right on here, and that will take up the slack where it engages. Oops, I forgot. We've got to put that on after we slide it through. And then we engage it into our center drive shaft. And that gets rid of the play, the back and forth play that you likely have in your drive shaft. So we've got that. Now, next step is make sure everything's in there, but we'll reinstall our rear end. We line that up, and then usually you just have to roll it back and forth once or twice to get it to engage, which it's done. So we'll put our 4 screws back in, 2 in the top, 2 in the bottom. Again, don't tighten these all the way with the drill. Don't want to strip anything out. We'll finish all 4 of these by hand. Top 2. All right, now we're going to rotate our motor down until it makes solid contact with our spur gear. We don't want it to be too tight, but we don't want it to be too loose either. So just solid contact with the spur gear, and then we'll tighten that top screw down. All right, next up we'll put our motor cover back on. And the last thing that we need to do is we need to put our strap back on that holds our motor wires and our telemetry wires. And I did already reinstall the speed wire into the receiver, the speed telemetry wire into the receiver. All right, so there you had it. We saw all the play that we had in it before, and now there is 0 play. We can't move that, and then of course we put the O-ring in there. You may need 2, depending on how much slop, but that still allows this to move slightly. But if that center drive shaft's too loose, you'll actually get a rattle sound. So let's give it a test run and make sure it works. All right, we've got it all back together. Everything seems to be running right. Well guys, hopefully this video was helpful for you, replacing your motor mount on your Traxxas/Ultimate. It would be the same as the Traxxas Rustler as well. If it was helpful, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out the video on the fast way to replace the Spur Gear on your Traxxas Slash. And in an upcoming video, we're going to be rebuilding a Velineon 3500 brushless motor out of a Traxxas Slash. That's also going to be the same rebuild process as the Velineon 540 XL motor. So check that video out when it drops. Thanks so much for watching, and that's how we RC.